Magic. Why Ken's wrong. Ken Wheeler believes in magic, both good and evil, black and white. Find out why science debunks these notions and why it would take a lot more than magic to make his arguments valid, sound, or convincing. Carl Jung wrote, "Man uses the spoken word to express the meaning of what he wants to convey. His language is full of symbols, but also often employs signs or images that are not strictly descriptive." Ken Wheeler views these symbols as talismans and icons. He calls them the genuine magic of true metaphysics. For example, Ken Wheeler believes in Ouija boards. He's quick to clarify that he doesn't believe the board has magic powers. Instead, the angry photographer argues that the Ouija board is a type of talisman. By giving us a focal point, it can invoke evil spirits. As evidence, the Theoria Apophasis host tells a story about a house in Missouri in which, according to him, a boy with a Ouija board created a portal to disembodied beings. The angry photographer says that the events inspired the movie The Exorcist, and that the house is still haunted even today. As always, Ken Wheeler doesn't have his facts straight. The urban legend to which he's referring, supposedly, took place near Washington, D.C. A couple purchased that house recently for a bargain price. Speaking to the Washingtonian, they report absolutely no encounters with the supernatural. The Theoria Apophasis host also points to Nazi iconography as evidence for his notion of metaphysical black magic. In particular, he calls the swastika a Buddhist standard for the solar absolute. There's nothing specifically Buddhist about a swastika. The symbol is more than 7,000 years old and has turned up in the ruins of Troy and prehistoric Germany. The YouTuber behind Theoria Apophasis claims the swastika is another talisman. He says the swastika became a point of focus for Germans, causing the Second World War. All because people thought a bent cross looked intriguing? Ken Wheeler's views on charms and divination lead him to firmly believe in water witching or dowsing. That's the practice of using a forked stick or a pair of L-shaped wires to decide where to dig a well. The angry photographer maintains that, although dowsing rods themselves contain no magic, they're yet another kind of talisman. Water witchers use them as a point of focus, magically enabling them to sense subsurface water deposits. Science has shown that this magic offers no advantage over simply guessing. The simplest explanation that covers all the facts is that successful dowsing is just blind luck. There's something even more peculiar about the angry photographer's aversion to symbols. He singles out corporate trademarks as examples of icons, suggesting that they too attract evil spirits. Kentucky Ken's aversion to corporate trademarks is odd, given that he has a Nikon logo tattoo. Has this iconic trademark overpowered him, causing his hostile and irrational reviews of photography gear? The Theoria Apophasis creator also believes in white or positive forms of magic. He stumbled onto the word theurgy from a group of ancient philosophers. Theurgy comes from the Greek words theos, for God, and ergon, for work. Along with typical prayer and theology, theurgy was a third practice involving magic spells and incantations that supposedly invoked gods and spirits. Ken Wheeler's hero Plotinus objected to theurgy's magical thinking, instead emphasizing theology, philosophy, and meditation as the paths to wisdom. Plotinus' successor, Porphyry, debunked theurgy's logical fallacies in a letter we still have. One of his numerous objections was thinking we can tell gods what to do. As he put it, "It perplexes me greatly to form a conception how they who are invoked as superior beings are likewise commanded like inferiors." The main source of the angry photographer's attachment to theurgy's superstitions seems to be Iamblichus. In his bizarre book, De Mysteriis, Iamblichus tried to justify Theurgy's magic charms and spells. As classical scholar E.R. Dodds wrote, De Mysterious is a manifesto of irrationalism, an assertion that salvation is found not in reason but in ritual. He goes on to say, so far as we can judge, the procedures of Theurgy were broadly similar to vulgar magic. Not surprisingly, the Theoria Apophasis creator claims to practice the highest level of Theurgy. This top tier moves beyond changing the weather or summoning the gods to achieve unity directly with the One. According to the angry photographer, the key to proximity to the One is proximity to our own soul or higher self. In his mind, our soul gets diluted within our psychophysical mind, brain, and body. Supposedly, we can reverse this dilution and pull ourselves together by applying the opposite process, concentration or subjective synthesis. Kentucky Ken claims this is what ancient mystics meant by concentration, rather than everyone else's idea of meditation. The trouble is, the Theoria Apophasis host also insists that the soul is like a radio signal and our mind, brain, and body are like a receiver. Assuming that's true, our soul couldn't become diluted within our material existence any more than a radio receiver could dilute a broadcast signal. We can also summarily dismiss Ken Wheeler's claim to be applying Theurgy because Platonists reject enlightenment through independent study. Plato himself taught that when students rely on random books instead of skilled teachers, they will be hearers of many things and will have learned nothing. They will be tiresome company, having the show of wisdom without the reality. He couldn't have described Ken Wheeler